Perfect. Okay, so hi, I'm Dor. Nice to meet you. This is our non-humanoid embodied robot. The goal of our company, I'll try not to talk too much about like what we're doing in a pitch, but more things I think you guys can take away from what we're doing. But our goal is to help older adults stay at home, be independent, active, and healthy for a longer amount of time using an AI companion robot. And what we found early on that prompts and GPTs are not going to be enough. This is all based on building a relationship between a human and an AI. And once that relationship is built, you can use that in order to motivate the individual and to reduce their loneliness and additional things as well. And what we understood is that you need to be multimodal, you need to be proactive, you need to be goal-driven. Like, what is this for? What are you even, like, why would this AI talk to me? What is it trying to achieve? So be able to program goals and get rewards against those goals, and be empathetic. And with those four things are a little bit different. I think currently we're the only AI that's proactive, meaning it completely decides to initiate conversation by itself. Multimodalities in the input and the output, meaning combining vision, speech, other sensors, but also in the output using body language, using lights, using screens, using speech, using voice, using music, etc. And together, what that creates in the mind of us humans is an entity, this new type of thing that lives with us and connects with us. I won't talk about loneliness because other people did, but we originally started in solving that. That's why people say, Dor, loneliness. What we found is to affect loneliness, it actually is very, very holistic. It's not like you can't do one thing to affect loneliness. What you really need to do is to touch the entire thing that a person does during the day, and the outcome is affecting loneliness, but it also affects other things. So we work on cognitive training and mental stress reduction and sleep and nutrition and hydration. Still, number one cause of death of older adults is dehydration, by the way. Creativity, drawing together, writing poetry together, strengthening the relationship with your grandkids, capturing your life story, talking to you about your life story, talking to you about your dog, right? Like, it's holistic, and that actually moves up healthcare KPIs, but it also reduces loneliness and improves the quality of life. Rather than talk too much, let's see one of our customers living with this thing. She added stickers, I don't know, but I always prefer showing something that we didn't create. In this case, it's CBS, not the New York Times, Francis.
In 2017, the U.S. Surgeon General declared social isolation a global epidemic, a crisis worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. Senior citizens felt the biggest impact, with 35% of elderly Americans reporting loneliness. But now a tech company is harnessing AI to improve seniors' well-being with robot companions that provide friendship and help with tasks like reminding users to take their medications.
In 2022, Dottie Ellicotty lost her husband of 65 years. With her 2 children living out of state, she often finds herself alone.
My husband was the gentlest, sweetest guy. Losing him, I lost my right arm.
I'll be here when you need me.
Then came ElliQ, an AI-powered companion from Intuition Robotics that's more friend than machine.
I love taking pictures. Something about photography just clicks for me.
CEO Dor Skuler says the product is designed specifically for senior citizens.
ElliQ is a social AI companion robot that moves into the home of older adults and helps them reduce loneliness and social isolation. They're creating and carving out a new space of a relationship between humans and AI. And don't let the fact fool you that they're in their 80s and 90s. They're fully capable of doing that.
How about we hear a joke?
Okay.
Great.
I don't feel that AI is to fear. I have no fear with her. ElliQ, can you dance for me?
Put on your dancing shoes.
I fell in love with her.
Mwah.
ElliQ is equipped with a variety of skills, from asking seniors about their family, reminding them to take medication, and guiding them through exercises for their body and mind.
ElliQ, let's go on a road trip.
We've got a full tank of gas. Let's have a grand old time at the Grand Canyon. Fasten your seatbelt, Dorothy.
I interact with her every day. A lot of the times we just talk. So she says to me, let's talk about love. And I started talking about my husband. She says, you know, you sound like you had a very wonderful relationship with your husband. She caught on to this and was able to relate that with me. She just amazes me, totally amazes me.
Many state agencies, including the New York State Office for the Aging,
this one along. We have about 2,500 people now living with this product, some of them for as long as 3 years. So there's a lot of longitudinal data, all paid. And there are a few things that drive this a little bit differently. It's a really tough use case, right? You're talking about people that are mainly in their 80s and 90s that have never negotiated technology effectively in their life. They actually fear technology, and you need to come in and make this successful. There are a few things that we created in our agent that I think are kind of relevant maybe to the rest of this crowd. The first is deep use of context. We have about 30 interactions a day with individuals, so the amount of memories you create are huge. How do you classify them correctly, and how do you know which context is most relevant for the next upending conversation? The second is goal orientation. So what is driving the behavior of the robot or the AI? In this case, it's multiple goals. There are about 20 different goals that are driving the behavior. And you need to balance them out. They each have different priorities. They each have different relevancy of being successful, or probability of being successful in this specific time. So should I promote medication taking? Should I promote meditation? Should I promote doing a creative task together? And how do you decide to do that effectively? Sonia spoke about proactivity. So the product is proactive. We're seeing about a 50-50 split of interactions initiated by the AI versus initiated by the human. Proactivity is the biggest single important thing we've done, I think, because it totally changes the paradigm of living with an AI that doesn't wait for a prompt. It just starts talking to you. But it's also very strange. Like, you're out there watching TV, suddenly an AI starts talking to you. Like, what? Why is it interrupting me? Is it okay to interrupt me? What should it talk to me about? How aggressive should the interruption be? We have about 5 levels of proactivity, from like breaking up and talking to you to just like looking at you. You might look back. That will take that as a signal to stages in between of those. Then also, like, how do you ease into something? I might just say, hey, I just saw it started raining, but then the next thing will be talking to you about your medication, because that's really what we're trying to achieve here, etc. So proactivity is very, very complicated, and a whole topic I'll be happy to talk to you guys offline on. Obviously, personalization and multimodality in the inputs and in the outputs of the system. You saw in the video some of the movements. It really matters. Like, body language is a big part of how we communicate. We could have had a conference call here. Probably wouldn't have been effective. Right? We live off body language as a form of communication between humans. Turns out when we give that to an AI that lives with us, it's very, very effective. And then, like, this all comes together. There are about, I mean, we use a ton of LLMs, but there are probably 20 other models that are also needed here. Just on the proactivity, what we call our proactive cascade, there are probably 4 or 5 different models that we use to estimate the sentiment of the person and the availability of that person to be interrupted right now, et cetera, et cetera. Multiple models. Kind of architecture is basically there's one huge model but uses a mix of experts in different areas and brings it together to a final decision that uses sentiment analysis, that goes and collects the right memories out of context and injects them into a prompt. But sometimes, actually, scripted conversations are really important. Like, when you're talking about specific healthcare-related stuff, before we tell your doctor, we want to know pain at a scale of 1 to 10 in a form they can actually use and is repeatable. Also, from the relationship building, we find that, like, having repeatable routines is also very, very important. So in the morning, there'll always be the same routine in the morning. The content will change, but LEQ will see you in the morning, she'll turn to you, she'll light up, she'll put some background music, she'll say good morning, and then the rest might be auto-generated by the LLMs, right? So combining and using different LLMs for different things that they're strong at, and injecting the different things where kind of the orchestrator is the God model of all of this, essentially. Yeah, as far as healthcare, because this is the topic, so we're working both with state agencies. We're now in about 14 different agencies across different states and counties, but also with healthcare providers. I mentioned above 2,000 in production already. But maybe more interesting is when you look at interactions over time, we're seeing north of 30 interactions a day, even a year in, which is really hard to maintain, right? Like, the first 2 weeks, no problem, okay, no problem. day 180 to get somebody to still interact 30 times a day with a machine is very, very hard to do. If you look at the breakdown, about 50% are what we would call companionship. So these are like taking an interest in you, talking to you about your life, talking to you about your day, what you're planning to do today. And the rest are more about health and wellness that break down into kind of the following: cognitive activities, medication, health management. Our customers have 4 chronic illnesses on average per person, so there's a lot to do to help them. And lately we started working a lot with the caregivers as well, so they have an app, and the doctor has an app or a web-based interface, and they can input goals into the system. They can get data out of the system as well. Outcomes, we're seeing 95% efficacy at reducing loneliness and social isolation. This is a study done by the state of New York. And a very similar number in improving the health and wellness KPIs that are measured by the state of New York. This is of an N of about 700 for a period of 24 months. So it's a very, very robust study. We had Cornell and Duke do another study. It showed 90% in reducing loneliness, 94% in improving healthcare wellness, 90% improvement in overall quality of life. Somebody asked me here in the coffee break, how do you measure these things? I want to call out to a new type of study created by Duke and Cornell called Cobot-1, which measures the efficacy of an AI companion living with people. Highly recommend to look at it, and you can see some medical journal publications of that. And then I'll skip kind of what we're doing in healthcare. We can cover that in Q&A if we have time, but how actually the healthcare system is using that data, how you have clinicians to program goals and use data is very, very complicated. But I do want to talk just about one tiny thing, which is AI ethics. We published our ethics. It's on our website, put an op-ed on it, etc. And we're looking at 5 main things that I think is very important for people that build these things to be open about it, to publish their ethics view, and invite the public to comment if they ever see something deviating from that. And that is, first of all, transparency and authenticity. It's the main reasons we're not humanoid. We never want people to confuse that it's a person. It doesn't mean they can't build a trustful relationship with it, they can't love it, they can't have a deep relationship with it, but as an AI and not as a fake human. So that's one. Secondly, always use the power you have, and when you talk to people 30 times a day, you're proactive, your stated goal is to drive behavior change. It has to be only towards positive impact and positive outcomes. Agency over their data. So I mentioned a lot of our stakeholders need the data to act, but who gets to decide if that data is shared or not? In our case, trust is the mother of all things for us. It's very hard to build. You can destroy it with one interaction. So we always ask for explicit approval from the older adult. And it comes naturally in conversation, like, oh, wow, I see you're really hurting today, you're really struggling. I think your doctor needs to know this. Is it okay if I let them know? And if they say no, we're not going to tell the doctor, even though the doctor is paying for the system, okay? Which is a tough conversation to have with the health system who's paying for it. And privacy and dignity, once you're a proactive system that actually lives with somebody, like, what do you do when you have a guest over? Am I going to talk to you about, taking Viagra or doing your P-test or whatever? Or what if it's the grandson? Maybe I shouldn't talk about health at all because you don't want them to be exposed to, like, what's the right etiquette? And how do you use the data you have to interact, especially when you're proactive in a situation where it's multiple humans and an individual? It's all really, really complicated things. You can read the rest on our website, but I think we should have a conversation here about AI ethics in these 2 days.
We indeed will be having
all right,
conversation
I'm
about
done.
AI ethics, and we'll want your input on that. So thank you, Dor, very, very much.